Hello, everyone. Welcome to our very first KIVALUE retail planning videocast. This is going to be a series of many episodes that we're going to produce that address topics around retail planning, also neighboring topics, allocation, replenishment, pricing. So there's a long list of topics that we're going to address. My name is Christoph Graeber. I'm Chief Revenue Officer at KIVALUE, and retail planning has been part of my DNA for the last 18 years. So, it's a topic that really I've been working on for many years. I've worked with many retailers and textile and fashion companies about this topic, and we hope that we can share some insights that really help you to get more into details and that really benefit your organization. So, this videocast specifically, the topic that we want to introduce the videocast with is what to consider when choosing a new planning solution. Over the last decade, we've been part of many selection processes with many different organizations, and we've seen different approaches how to select a planning solution. And we think we do have an idea what kind of topics are really important. And we want to share this with you and hope that your organization will also benefit from this. To discuss this topic, I have my very first guest in this videocast, and this is wonderful Dr. Lutz Kämmerer. So Lutz, welcome.
Yeah, hi to everyone.
And Lutz, maybe you can say a couple words about yourself before we then start to discuss the different challenges and topics.
Yeah, my name is Lutz Kämmerer, and similar to Christoph, I also spent many years, almost 20 years in planning, and more than 15 of these years in retail industry, in the fashion industry, and was also involved in many merchandise assortment planning project activities. Yeah, and let's talk about that.
Yeah, absolutely. So also Lutz and I, we work together in many different selection processes on the vendor side in the past. And, there's a lot of, let's say, different approaches and also level of complexities that organizations are actually how they are approaching a selection process. But bottom line, all of them have the same kind of challenges, and that's really what we want to start with. So Lutz, what are the typical challenges a retailer has and wants to solve with a planning solution, and what topics should we talk about here?
Yeah, I mean, implementing a modern merchandise assortment planning software solution is a project that takes multiple months or even quarters till they go live. On the other hand, also selecting the right solution also requires some significant effort and can be difficult to achieve if it's not carefully prepared. So today we want to give some insights into to help the audience to understand and structure the requirements of their own business a bit better. Of course, this can be just a high-level overview and is not meant to be a complete kind of checklist. Anyway, some of the typical generic topics would be for instance, flexibility of the tool when modeling your business. That means that it should be configurable regarding planning dimensions and hierarchies, and of course, with respect to the key performance indicators that are the heart of planning in the end. Also, tool should be user-centric. That means it should be easy to use, having a flat learning curve, should provide all the features and functions, and provide a comfortable UI to make planners' life easier. And of course, it should enable your organization to run a collaborative planning workflow. And beyond this, we also need to have an eye on technology. Mm-hmm. In the end, there's also more than technology and software. It's also that you need some soft skills around that. So like an experienced implementation partner that knows your business, speaks your language. These are also key factors for a successful implementation.
Mm-hmm. Well, very interesting. I mean, you mentioned flexibility, and I mean that's a topic that I believe is very, very important because, you know, the listeners today, the audience are probably people working for retail companies, maybe for fashion companies, you know, vertical retailers, brand business, but also maybe some specialty like jewelry or anything like that. So, you know, when we say retail planning, we mean actually a bit more than actually just the retail sales channel, let's say. Most of those organizations that are looking into a planning solution have different business models. So most of them definitely have e-commerce by today. Many others are still having real stores, brick and mortar, that they need to plan. Some of them have outlet sales channels. Some of them have wholesale channels, franchise business. So, you know, it's mostly and almost all the time a combination of different sales channels that need to be addressed with the planning solution. What is it that really makes a difference here?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, this is the reason why you need a system that provides the possibility to model a dedicated dimension for your sales channels and for your business models. Like you mentioned it already, your geographical regions that you plan in, it makes a difference if you operate just in your own country or in many different regions or even global around the world. And as you also mentioned, there's this pure play online versus brick and mortar or own operated stores versus concession and consignations or shop and shop store formats or outlets or whatsoever. And also related to products, company might offer brands or own label products at the same time. So you need to be able to separate these, and that needs to be reflected in the proper dimension and hierarchy. Mm-hmm. For product dimension, everybody's used to use hierarchical structures of this product dimension, but the same is true for all the others, like the markets and the channels and the time, and just to name the obvious ones. Yeah, to address all these different requirements in a planning system, yeah, it simply needs to provide modeling flexibility, and that is what we meant when we mentioned flexibility in terms of dimensions and hierarchies. Because they are simply the architectural basis of your solution. And of course, you also need to have the key performance indicators. So that means even if a system provides predefined KPIs already, even if these are hundreds in the end, it needs to be flexible enough to add new indicators or calculation formulas that are necessary to cover your specific business needs, because they are always a little bit different from one to another.
I see. But I think, you know, what you say is that, first of all, the future solution that you're selecting needs to cover your current business process. But at the same time, I think it's also important that the system is agile and flexible enough to adjust to your business model in case you change it, right? I mean, there's still companies out there that, for example, want to expand into more regions, into different countries, using potentially different currencies, that are maybe starting with their e-commerce sales channel not before next year. So a planning solution obviously should be able and capable to really adjust and flexibly add new structures. So from that perspective, I mean, we talked about the different structures and so on. Something that always comes to my mind when we think about what a planning solution needs to provide are the typical features and functions of the solution itself. So, you know, looking what can it actually do, what kind of support does it give to my planning activities. Let us talk a bit about the feature and functions. So what exactly do you think are the challenges here and the topics that need to be covered?
Yeah, I mean, features and functions simply should make the planner's life easier. They should invest their time and brain in finding the right planning decisions and not fighting with software. So there are many aspects of the ease of use of software. So that starts with like the possibility to configure your predefined planning screens, to have comfortable filter settings and data selection probabilities. And since planning is always a number crunching job, then we always need to support tables like and features that go along with tables, like pivoting or support of drilling up and down along the hierarchies that we mentioned earlier. Mm-hmm. And finally, of course, the entering and changing the data. So that means we can expect some features that are more sophisticated than what you can do with Microsoft Excel, for instance. Mm-hmm. Just to name a few, what comes to my mind is the reverse calculation, for instance. The second one would be what often is called spread and log or mixed change, where you just can log a total and then change the mix of the numbers that are in a lower hierarchy level. Mm-hmm. Maybe we can just go to a system here and have a look at that, just to illustrate what I mean with the spread and log and mixed change.
Absolutely.
If we have a region here and two channels, like an e-com and a store one, and this channel, then we plan into different divisions.
We cannot see your screen yet. So
okay. All right.
While you do that, just a couple words also from my perspective. Spreading, locking, and so on, this is something that obviously has been requirements from planners for a long time and for many years. But it's very, very, very important. That's something that every planner uses on a daily basis, really. So yeah, let's take a look. So we see your screen, the Harmonica solution here. Yeah. Go ahead.
Exactly. That would be an example to illustrate what I mean with spread and log or mixed change. So if we have one region over here, two different channels, and then below each channel we separate three different divisions, for instance, over here. And maybe we are happy with our planning steps so far and are happy with the 1.5 million that we dedicated for the e-com channel here as a target sales value. But we simply want to change the mix between the different divisions over here. So what we can do is we can take a functionality of mixed change or spread and log, activate that, and then what happens if we then change one or the other division value over here, maybe the accessories from 180K to 200K, it simply locks the total of 1.5 million over here. And takes a little bit from the different two different divisions like apparel and footwear to just make sure we can have this increase of 14%, which is the 200K for the accessories over here. Just as an example for such a feature.
Yeah, very nice, very nice. We just saw the user front end of the Harmonica solution here, and that brings us to the next point, which I think is really important and that you already mentioned when you kind of introduced the different topics, usability and adoption. Obviously, also from my experience, that is what really makes the difference after an implementation of a planning solution. You need to have the buyers and the planners and the merchandisers actually use the solution, and they only use it if it makes their life easier, obviously. So user adoption is one of the prime factors in one of the most important, criteria that someone should pay attention to when selecting a planning solution. Maybe you can tell us a bit more about your point of view on that topic.
Yeah, about usability. The best features and functions that do not have that much if it's too complicated or inconvenient to use them. So that's for sure that it needs to be simple and smooth for the users to use it. But usability is not just important for functions and features. It's also one of the main advantages for integrated planning systems is the fact that the preparation time and the effort before planning starts actually can be reduced tremendously. Especially when we compare the data gathering, which in an Excel-based planning landscape can require days or even weeks. With an integrated system that should be up to date through an automatic data interface where data loads are done weekly or daily or even on users' demand. Also simple things like user access to such a system. Today, it can be as simple as logging into a web service. And in fact, some modern planning systems are web services. So Then, as I mentioned before, the possibility of the users to adapt the layout to the planning screens helps a lot to ensure users' acceptance, and this is also true for, of course, for short response times that users typically want to see.
Yeah.
Another big plus to just to mention that is that the integration of dedicated key reports into a planning solution is really a big plus, just to avoid switching between planning and reporting systems every now and then.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that makes all sense. I mean, you mentioned a couple of things that like performance, and responsiveness of the solution itself, and that kind of leads us to one of the next topics that I want to talk about, which is technology. I mean, we talked about features, functions, usability, adoption, and flexibility to create the different planning structures, and obviously all of that is based on the technology itself. And here, there's a couple of topics that I think should be addressed, but one of the main aspects is cloud versus on-premise that I want to mention before you deep dive into a bit more into the different ones. I mean, what we've seen in the past is that if I look at the last 18 years, obviously most of the planning solutions that were implemented and I have had some kind of participation in was on-premise. And but that has changed a lot the last 1, 2, 3 years, especially here in the DACH region, where the two of us are mostly active, let's say. Nowadays, it's almost no question that the planning solution is a cloud-based planning solution, with all its advantages, obviously. I mean, the user login is much easier. You don't have to install anything on your computer. Just log into by using your web browser. You can use it from everywhere and anywhere without having some kind of tunnel or WTS server or anything like this. You can scale, and that plays into the performance factor. You can scale your hardware, which is behind the cloud solution, depending on your needs. So if you have many planners during planning high season, and they need to use a lot of different calculations, you can ramp up the performance of your solution easily. Nobody has to take care of the infrastructure, and most software vendors that provide planning solutions kind of give you the ability to really look at this as a full service package, right? So you don't have to have your own IT look into monitoring and keeping your services up. So that's really an advantage. And from my perspective, it's the only way forward. And the planning solution that you should select should actually have the ability to offer you a cloud service. So that's my point of view on that one. Anything to add from your side?
No. I mean, you mentioned everything, especially that performance scalability that is really fantastic when you use a cloud-based solution. That's absolutely true.
Yeah, and I think what you also mentioned earlier is that you should have a reporting functionality fully integrated into the planning solution. And by saying that, I need to underline that it is great to have a full-scale reporting capability, let's say. So, sometimes planning solutions have reporting capabilities, but most of the time they are very focused on different planning processes, and they don't have access to the data that is really needed to make decisions. Plus, sometimes it's in different user front ends. You have to switch from one screen to another in order to see the data. And sometimes you even have to wait overnight in order to have your plan data being reflected in the reporting. So this is something that you should avoid when selecting a planning solution. So I mean, yeah.
I mean, we still need to be quite true about that reporting and planning are really two different things, and they will keep on being different things. But as you mentioned, that's why it's important to be able that during your planning process, you can see the most important reports that you need to take your planning decision within your planning system and not to switch into a different architecture, different system. So that's an absolute plus if that can be integrated into your planning solution. Yeah, absolutely.
Good. Talking about technology, there's one other topic that comes to my mind. AI, artificial intelligence. So definitely that's a buzzword, and it's something that is really moving the industry right now. So from the AI perspective, connected to planning solution, what should a planning solution provide in regards of AI?
Yeah, I mean, it's difficult to say because I think we will see some really good developments in the upcoming future in terms of AI and planning. And of course, it would be nice to see AI features and machine learning capabilities within a planning solution itself. At least we can expect from planning systems as of today that they are kind of open from an architectural point of view to integrate and to connect to AI systems, so that whatever AI system you have and that provides you fantastic results, that can be seamlessly integrated into your planning system. So that you also have a kind of seamless integration over there, and can use it from over there. Mm-hmm. But I guess talking about AI would probably fill a whole videocast as we do it right now. So that's something for one of the upcoming webinars, I guess.
It is on the list, so definitely will be a topic that we probably the two of us will discuss very soon. So stay tuned. You also, when you introduced the different topics, what you mentioned is that there's also soft skills needed, and you also, let's say, aspects that go beyond software. What do you really mean by that?
Yeah, I mean, doing a project is always something that requires a lot of people and a lot of time. So there are kind of few rules of thumb that we can give along with that that is not related to software or technology. I mean, first, that's something like focus on the process that you really want to implement, slice it to the right size, do it step by step. Get your data clean, because planning is very much related on data. And also ask for the right support in terms of implementation partner that has experience with the subject that you are addressing, that speaks your language. And dedicate time, people, budget to make this project as a success. And last but not least, do some change management, get your organization simply ready for this.
Very good, very good. Thank you. Yeah, I think we touched on all the let's say, topics that we think are important. So thank you for that, Lutz. Very good. Just to kind of summarize quickly, I mean, the first thing we said is make sure you have the structures to be flexible and agile, to cover all your different sales channels, and also to be flexible enough to really change your process if you need to. We talked about the different features and functions, where definitely we need to have some planning specific functionality like spread and log, reverse formula calculations, and things that really make also your user interfaces flexible to pivot the data. We talked a bit about usability, which is about the user front end, which is about easy access, short response rates, and so on. We talked about technology, where one of the most important questions to ask yourself is on-premise or cloud, and also make sure it can be easily integrated into your architecture and in your systems. We touched on AI, which will be a new topic in one of our next discussions. And we also touched a bit on everything what is needed beyond software. So thank you for that. Lutz, obviously, if there are any questions that the audience has about this topic, approach us. We are happy to have a discussion with you. Also, give us some feedback. If you think we missed out on one of the major aspects, then let us know. We're happy to learn, and we're happy to discuss. Also, I want to mention, if you are interested to learn more about the planning solution that we think is currently definitely the best one for retail planning, which is Harmonica Retail, just approach us. We're happy to tell you more about Harmonica Retail. We're exclusive partner of Harmonica Retail in specific territories, and happy to talk to you about that. So, yes, I think it's time to close this very, very first videocast, retail planning videocast. Thank you for watching us, and yeah, we're happy to continue, and we'll be back very soon with more topics around retail planning. Have a great day. Thank you.
You.